Yo, yo, what is up, everybody? This is Kyle from the Fantasy Phenom, here to explain how to use these spreadsheets that I send out to you guys as part of the Pro package. So I know I've gotten a couple questions over the last couple days, promised I would do one of these, and understandably so. The sheets have changed a little bit since they were offered as the free package. Obviously, we have changed kind of what they offer, added more features, things of that nature. So, just kind of want to run down how these work and what they do. So, obviously here is the very first thing you get is the master sheet. This is the player pool given to you by DraftKings or FanDuel. We're going to use FanDuel today. So, a list of players, their first, last name, their position, their team, their salary, how many points they average a game, what they get what they need for 5 times value, and what they need for 6 times value. Now these are big because as a tournament or cash player, you want to look at this. So from a cash perspective, you're definitely looking at guys that have a safe floor. So you're going to look more in the 5 times value range. As a tournament player, you're definitely going to be one of looking at the 6 times value. You're looking at high upside guys that you think will hit 6 times value and give you the highest possible return. So that's going to involve more risk. Now, these are also sortable. So this little tab right here, you can click, sort largest to smallest, things like that. You can sort any one of these tabs by largest to smallest. You can filter out, things of that nature. I then give you guys my player pool, right? So these are the 5 players from each position, 5 top players from each position that I'm looking at on the day's slate. So, for example, Steph Curry, Mike Conley, Rose, Bledsoe, and Wall as point guards, and so forth. Their average, their floor, ceiling, projection, and what their salary is. So that just gives you an idea of my player pool and the guys I'm looking at. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to roster a guy that's not in here, right? So if the guy's not in here and I roster him, it's not that, I hated him. These are just my top 5. These are the top guys that stand out to me that I really like today. Then you have our projections sheet. And this is all the money right here. This is gold. So obviously player, position, team, what the player averages, what their floor for the day is, what their ceiling for the day is, what their final projection for the day is, their salary, what I think their minimum number of minutes will be, what I think their maximum number of minutes will be, and then you have their value. This is huge right here. This is a great tool to potentially find value. Floor value right here is if the player hits their floor, what times value will they bring back? Now, when we talk about cash, you want a guy that has a safe floor. You want a higher number here. A ceiling value right here. When you're looking at GPP, you're definitely looking at a guy that has the highest potential ceiling value. So if a guy that's $3,000 on DraftKings gets you 18 points, that's 6 times value. That's great. Now, obviously, we'd love more than that. We're looking at guys that are a lot higher. We want more points than that, but out of a minimum salary guy, you're looking at value. So you can sort based on value. So you're seeing here, John Henson, his ceiling, if he hits it, is 8.59 times value. That's amazing right there. You can't ask for more than that. Nikola Mirotic, Derrick Rose, those are our top 3 guys right there. Those guys all, if they hit their ceiling, would hit over 8 times value. That's huge. So that's why you see Derrick Rose a lot today on the optimals. Now here I have Main Express, After Hours Express, Too Late. These are just the names of the slates on the day. If they don't have anything on it, it means there isn't a slate for that. So today we have a main slate, an express slate, and an after-hour slate. And these are your optimal lineups. So these are what Excel brings back based on 3 criteria. So on the left side, we have all based on projection. 5 lineups based on projection. So I tell Excel, I put in my projections, the salary, and I say, okay, I need a lineup for FanDuel. Under $60,000, I need it to be 2 point guards, 2 shooting guards, the whole roster criteria. I need you to return me the highest lineup based on projection. And it does that, and it gives me the 5 best, and I put them right here for you guys. And then I say, okay, now I want one based on projection. Give me the highest potential lineup based on projection right here. Right? And I want 5 of them. So I do that. And this is what I call the ceiling. Or I'm sorry, I meant ceiling, by ceiling. And this is what I look more for towards GPP, right? We talk about a high ceiling. So these are guys that are usually more risky, right? You'll see a TJ Warren in here, or John Henson in here. Those are risky guys, right? Like, they're not guaranteed to come back value. John Henson could end up being a do not play, because that's just how Jason Kidd operates. And then you go over all the way over here to the right. Now, this is, this isn't perfect. This is probably the least consistent of the three, but it's still a great tool nonetheless. And this is based on floor. So when we talk about cash, we want a safe floor. These are your guys that are going to bring back the safest floor. And off the top of your head, you would think, okay, KCP, TJ Warren, Tony Allen, John Henson, right? Like, those aren't really safe floors. That's why I kind of say this is a... I wouldn't go verbatim on these based on cash, but it's another tool nonetheless. It's telling you that the highest possible floor based on the projections and whatnot. Like Kevin Durant, definitely a safe floor. Draymond Green, safe floor. Derrick Rose, again, that's not a great cash play. So it's again, use it with caution, right? How I'd love to use these, and shout out to some of the viewers for mentioning this, is I take all 15 of these, right? And I look at them, and I'm like, okay, Derrick Rose, man, he's returning in a lot of lineups. Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose. That's a sign, right? He's showing up in projections. He's showing up in the ceiling. He's showing up in the floor. I gotta look into him, right? I'm gonna do a little bit more research. Why is he showing up so much? What is it about his matchup today that's so good? And then you see he's playing Denver, and you look at the DVP for Denver, and you see, really, really bad against point guards. Everything's lining up for Derrick Rose to have a really good game. You may want to play him. So, again, it's a tool. It's a tool. Now, don't get me wrong. There are days that these lineups hit really, really nice. You've seen them. I send out every night the projected versus optimal, or the projected versus actual. And I show you what the players did versus their projection, and I show you what the optimal lineups did based on their projection. And you've seen that sometimes these lineups hit really, really well. Sometimes they don't. Again, it's a tool to use. I'm not saying to use these verbatim. And so obviously that's the main slate, express slate, after hours today. We have 3 slates today. Now here's the bread and butter. If you have a PC that runs any form of Excel, you're good to go, I believe. If you run a Mac and you have Excel 16, you can use this. Now this is your lineup optimizer. This is how I build the lineups. I build it by slate. Here you have the players and their projections. And then you have this lock fade column right here. Really, really useful. For example, I'm going to run this right here. So this is your top optimal. This is going to return the top lineup. There's no fades in place right now. Let's run it and see what happens. It's going to give me a lineup, right? Cool. Pops up. Bam. There's your lineup right there. Now, I see this. I don't really like John Henson today. I'm going to fade him. By the way, if you want to run the next one, the subsequent, you have to run them in order. So lineup 2, 3, 4, 5. Click those. It'll run you those lineups. So now, I'm going to go back here. You know what? Man, I really don't like John Henson. I don't want him to show up. I'm going to hit that capital F right there. That's going to fade him. Now, I can do one of two things. You can make it easy, and you can just go back to this lineups page and hit lineup 2. It's going to automatically fade him. Or if you want to, you can clear this. So you hit this little clear button right there and hit clear filter from in. All your players pop back up. So what this button does is it runs it, and then it automatically shrinks this entire player pool down to the 9 guys. So now I faded John Henson. It's going to give me a different lineup. Bam. All of a sudden, Robin Lopez returns to the center. John Henson's no longer in play. Now you'll see the projection is a little lower, but take this into account. A 300 projection versus a 297 projection is pennies, right? Like, this lineup right here could go for 350, and that 300 lineup could go for 250. It's a projection. It's extremely difficult to project humans and what they do, right? Things happen, foul trouble, things like that. I can't project that. I will say our projections are they are normally very good. You can go back and look if you're part of the pro group, all the projected versus actuals are on there. You can go back and look at every day that I've posted them so far. They're pretty accurate. I'm very confident in the projections. But I still like to build my own lineup. So now what I do, speaking of that, I want to build my own lineup, right? It's like, John Wall's not showing up. I really like John Wall today. I'm going to lock him in. Hit that capital L. John Wall's going to show up in every lineup that you do, no matter what. You know what? I like John Wall and I like Dennis Schroeder. I can run 5 lineups. There will not be another point guard other than those 2 that show up. And that's what's great about this. So I develop a player pool. I develop 4 or 5 guys. Sometimes 6 if I'm really liking them, right? So see Dennis Schroeder, John Wall right there. So I'm developing a player pool, and I'm like, really, really like these guys today. I want to make sure that they're in my lineup. So then what I do is I use this as a tool. Again, it's all a tool. It's all a tool, part of the program and the package. So Dennis Schroeder, John Wall. This returns Dwayne Wade, Will Barton, KCP, Klay Thompson. Right? It gives me options. So after I lock in my 6 guys, I want to see who it returns. Right? Who are the guys that Excel is telling me I should fit around those guys? And then I'm gonna plug in. I'm gonna pick and plug. Right? Who do I want to put in there? Who do I really like? And go from there. It's all a tool, man. It really is. And I use it like that. I plug in the 6 guys I pick from my own research, and I lock them in, and then I just run it. And you can do that for GPP, right? So the GPP tab is based on ceiling. So again, this is obviously because I was running these earlier. So then I can go and lock in the same guys, and it'll return me the guys based on ceiling. And then the cash one is based on floor. Super, super useful tool, I'm telling you. And these are posted every day, every night, and I update the sheets as I can, as soon as I can, when I can, with injury news, things like that, players updated, optimals updated, sheets updated, all that. So that's how that works. Then you go over here to team stats. This is an amazing tool, and again, this is to add on. This is a tool that Mike gives you this is how one of the ways we build projected fantasy points. So you've heard about that on the show recently. We're projecting the number of fantasy points that are going to be allowed in a game. It's kind of like a Vegas line for total points, but it's going to be fantasy points. And you have to remember, with a Vegas line, it's pure points, real points. Fantasy lines, rebounds, turnovers, steals, right? So if you have a team that turns the ball over a lot, steals are 2, turnovers are 1. It's a net of 1 every time there's a turnover, or every time there's a steal. So you have to look at that's why fantasy points can be really, really a really good tool and compared to Vegas lines. Points are great. Points are points. But you can look at a low-scoring game and see that maybe it has a higher fantasy point line. Maybe the defenses are really, really good, and there's a lot of rebound opportunities, right? So it's just another tool to use. And this is pace. Pace is obviously the number of possessions per 48 minutes. So Brooklyn averages the most at 104 per 48 minutes. And then lastly, I don't know why that's there. You have player stats. Here's everything you need for players. So their minutes per game, their total rebounds per game, their assists per game, their steals per game, blocks per game, turnovers, personal fouls. You can use this really. So you can look at players that are averaging a lot of fouls per game. Those players become risky, right? They average a lot of fouls. That means foul trouble. Something to keep in mind. Points per game, their usage, and their field goal percentage. This is huge. Usage is really, really key. You want to look at usage, and then you want to look at field goal percentage, because not all usage is good usage, right? There's only one factor that leads to good usage, and that is a made shot. And that's where you look at field goal percentage. So you want a high correlation between these two. So hopefully this video helped explain what you get with the sheets, how to use them once you have them, and hopefully it helps you build some good lineups. I'm really hoping that everything works out for you guys. Again, let me know if you have any questions, but hopefully this video helps a ton. Just to reiterate, once you hit this, right, if you come back to the screen, to clear this, you just hit this in tab L1 and clear filter from in, it'll bring up the entire playlist again. And then you can drag and drop everything like that, and it'll clear all that, and then all players are back in play again, and you can lock and fade as you want. So thank you guys. Hopefully this helped. Let me know if you have any other questions or feedback. I will try and address them. Have a wonderful